they wish. In my organization, I set up an organization which is called Egypt for 100 million tourists. Do you really believe that Islam would respect a person whose mother is Christian? Do you think, can you accept that Islam is tolerant to people who drink alcohol? These are things who have much larger parameters than what we are observing right now. I would once again reiterate that we will accept what the people wish.
Thank you. My name is Dimitar Bechev. I'm a senior policy fellow with the European Council for Foreign Relations and have the pleasure to be the director of the office in Sofia. I want to echo two remarks made at the panel. One is by Dr. Al-Kafaji about privatization predating democratization in the Arab world, and also what Dr. Markovsky said about the necessity of building an economic community. Now, if you see it, many countries in MENA, this shorthand, you saw the development over the past 20, 30 years of a business community, which was close to the governments. It's part of the governing network. So I'm interested if you can look into the crystal ball and maybe also define the conditions under which those business elites will be part of the new democratic process. Under what conditions they can be co-opted in the democratic institutions, in the democratic process. Are we to face the Eastern European example of crony capitalism, of kind of informality that undermines the pillars of democracy? I mean, obviously, illustration is, in Tunisia is not an option with the business. But can we have a turnover or transformation of the state-business relations?
Okay, thank you. Let me have the question here, the microphone to the first row. No, the first row, yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Let me just say first, thank you very much for the host. I'm coming from the Czech Republic, from Prague. I'm currently the director of the Transition Politics and Human Rights in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Niki Mladeno has a lot of regards from Minister Schwarzenberg. I would like to share something with you here, being for the past 20 years in different capacities and in different ambassadorial or other functions, first as an investigative media and then as an NGO and then as a diplomat, international and national, in the Middle East and in all the 6 republics of former Yugoslavia. I would like to share with you one thing, coming also from the country that went through the transition itself and that after 20 years still is challenged by something that you now have a chance actually to avoid. When we started our reforms, we didn't speak about the harmony and necessity between the rule of law reforms and between the economic reforms. That's why we ended up, even today, in many situations when mafia-oriented businesses, institutions are still challenging our democratic and our free society, and also the reconciliation between the different either minorities within the society. That's why I would like to say that what I saw and what I witnessed after the war, after the conflict, different types of conflict wars in the Middle East and in the Western Balkans, for example, and in my country that did not have a war, is that without the really primary rule of law reforms in all the political, economic, social, and educative system, nothing can really be sustainable and nothing can work properly in 10 years. Then I would like also to share one thing with you, is that the civil society is not a form only, it's not a phrase. Civil society are people behind that, but what is especially important and what we work with is independent voices of lawyers, of media, of NGOs, and where we would try to see that the traditional civil society decision-making process and complete cooperation with the government, we are trying it in our Ministry of Foreign Affairs as much as possible, It's going to really help the democratization in the society. And also the number 3 is that also the media are not supposed to be only, I'm sorry, just very, very shortly. The media are not supposed to be only the tool for saying that they are supposed to play the role, but really we should leave them alone in order to be able to play their role. Thank you.
There is another person over there. Please, a microphone over there.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to direct my question to Mr.
minutes.
Droutsas, Minister of Greece. You spoke of Marshall-type program for the region. And of course, we would love to see something like that. But to get beyond the simple idea, would you have any indications on the global budget, the duration, the inception, and who would champion it? Thank you.
Okay, and the final one, I think, because there are clearly some questions, please.
Thank you. My name is Anne Brasseur. I come from Luxembourg, but I'm here as a representative of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, where I'm the rapporteur on the situation of Tunisia. And that's why I had close contacts also with NGOs in Tunisia. I just want to tell you that, and the Secretary General of the Council of Europe was there yesterday, that we have 3 instruments which might be of great help for the countries. First is the Venice Commission of the Council of Europe, and Ms. Benezedrin just mentioned it, because they are helping, and they helped all the countries, the transition countries, which are members now of the Council of Europe, in order to set up a constitution, the rule of law. That's the first point. The second point I want to mention is that we have at the Council of Europe a status for partners for democracy, and which means that countries not belonging to Europe can become a member and have a status for partner for democracy. And the third I want to mention is this North-South Center, where on partial agreements we can work closely together. That's for the 3 instruments. And to conclude, I met people in Tunisia, and it's fantastic what they achieved. And I really pay tribute to all those who contribute in order to have democracy, and we are at their disposal to help them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The essence of conferences are coffee breaks, but before you go to that, there was one clear question. Where do you get the money from, as if I understood it correctly? And then there were several comments. Yeah, maybe we start answering.
No. Thank you very much. Very concrete question where I fortunately don't have a very concrete answer to this yet. We are talking about something very big. And when we are talking about big things, it needs time to develop them. And the first necessary and important thing is to bring this idea into rolling. There are discussions about that, but what I have also mentioned in my intervention is that unfortunately the developments in Libya are overshadowing also the other developments and the necessary moves that we have to make as international community. So it will need some time. But it is a fact that during such times of economic crisis, where also the European Union and EU member states and public opinions in EU member states are very sensitive about this, it is very difficult to believe and to push forward an idea to put the hand deep into the pocket to bring out money and spend money. So we have to think also in other terms. And this is why ideas like, again, under the concept and the experiences of the developments and the transition process in Central and Eastern Europe and the Balkan countries with the creation of the European Investment Bank and things like that, or Development Bank, this could be an idea to have something like a bank for the Mediterranean, which could be used in order to make such kind of projects reality. Another thing is, which is not in concrete financial terms, but still in economic terms, for the European Union to think through of establishing new kind of association agreements with the countries of the region in order to give by this an economic boost and economic support to the region. So once again, it is a visionary thing, it is a big thing that we are talking about, it is a political thing. We have, first of all, to create the political conviction, persuasion by everybody to be able to pursue such things, and then we will have, of course, to get into the details, which are not easy.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that there is also, yeah, if you wish to answer, I think one or two questions were, yeah. Please go ahead.
Well, I felt that the time is so compressed, I could forego that. But it's very simply put, I would say no businessman all of anywhere would be interested in democracy or whatever if he or she is given a free hand. The point is this: these crony capitalists can be forced to abide by the rule of law if there are other pressures from within the street that can force them to do that. And I think we can learn a lot from what's happening here in Eastern Europe. Some countries are much more successful than others in fighting crony capitalists and so on and so forth. Thank you.
Okay, please.
Moi, je voulais
Capitalism. There is something that really surprised us, and we were a bit shocked. When we needed Europe, in the first place, when 20,000 Tunisians went to Europe, to France more specifically, the response of Europe was to return those 20,000 refugees. But how many are those 20,000 in terms of financial support, in terms of costs? Of course, this would impact on our transition. It would have been a relief to us if you had accepted them. We educated those people. We're offering them to you for free, and we will need them in the future, but we cannot see the generosity of Europe yet. We can see a lot of attention from experts who are coming in telling us what to do, but we need you. We don't see anything in return, though.
Very much for the extremely cooperative enterprise we had here, and a coffee break for about 20 minutes. Thank you.